Home isn't just a place, it's a feeling. Whether you're at home, your business, or online, ADT helps keep you safe. With security systems, home automation, alarms, and surveillance, so you can feel at home, wherever you are. Go to ADT.com to get that feeling. ADT. Home. Safe home.
Morning, we are back in better than ever. Mike and Mike, presented by Progressive Insurance. Our guests on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. And so week one is in the books after one of the best nights of the entire year. A little double dip on a Monday night, and we are cranking up the Twitter machine all morning long. The hashtag is Too Far Tuesday. We have now seen everybody once, save, of course, for Miami and Tampa Bay. So what are the ridiculously premature decisions you have made about the 2017 NFL season, about your team, about another team, about a player, whatever it may be? We want to hear from you. Take it as far as you're willing to take it, and we're giving away prizes.
Jacksonville's going undefeated this year.
Listen,
is that a little too far on a Tuesday?
That's too far. That's hashtag
too far.
You can say anything you want. It's sort of like when you preface a sentence with all due respect.
Like Ricky Bobby.
You can say anything you want today
right.
and then just end it with,
you sure can.
Hashtag Too Far Tuesday.
Uh-huh.
No, Trevor Siemian is the best quarterback in the National Football League.
The leader for the MVP.
Hashtag Too Far Tuesday. Trevor Siemian is going to make the fans in Denver completely forget John Elway ever existed. Hashtag Too Far Tuesday.
There you go.
It's a ridiculous statement.
It
but
is.
when you finish it with Too Far Tuesday, everything's okay.
We would like you not to go that far.
Yeah.
If you want to, that's fine, but we'd rather you not kind of keep it within the realm of a possibility here. And we'll go from there. We'll have some fun with it. We have some fun with your tweets from now on till the end of Mike and Mike about some of the things behind us in the bobbleheads and what we're going to do. We're going to have some fun with that
yes,
as well.
But going back to our roots, if you will.
Yes.
One of the things we did when we first started was we had a contest called Hat, Shirt, or Media Guy.
Yeah.
Because we do trivia questions, and we should actually do some of those over the course of the next 2 months.
I agree.
We'll do some trivia.
I have a lot of stuff in my office that I need to get rid of. So.
I know. Well, you're still going to have the office.
No, I know, but I want to get rid of it.
You want to get rid of the office?
Oh, it's time for like a clean out.
No,
that's
like
what I
full
meant.
cleaning.
No, I'm still. I apologize. Still here doing the show same time with Trey and my son, but I need to clean out my office, so that means we need to do a giveaway.
Okay, I didn't fully comprehend.
That's my fault. I didn't explain it well.
Yeah, we're going to do the bobbleheads.
We're going to do the bobbleheads.
What we're doing, and so we used to have hat shirts because we had hats laying around, we had
did.
shirts laying around, and there were just boxes and boxes of media guides.
Remember that? The media guides were everywhere.
And we would give away, we would have people call in, answer trivia questions, and then we would assign them. We thought it was funny. I hope other people did too.
Yeah.
They let us stay on all this time, so someone must have thought it was funny.
Something worked.
We would give away like the Montana State, media guide.
Yeah.
And it was fun. And so maybe we'll come up with stuff like that. But right now we've got bobbleheads.
We do. We have bobbleheads.
We got it coming out our ears.
All the bobbleheads that you see behind us on the set, basically what we're going to do is, like today's Too Far Tuesday, we're not going to make up something each day. It's just going to follow whatever the day does. Today is Too Far Tuesday. The best one that we get, and we'll pick it by the end of the show, I will walk behind us and I will grab one of the bobbleheads off the shelf. Anyone I want. Green and I will both sign it, and we'll send it to you.
Patriots gnome?
That's not going to be. I have an idea of where I'm going to go
Patriots
first.
gnome. I got my eye on the Patriots
gnome. There are a bunch of bobbleheads up there. We're going to do one a day until the show ends. We'll sign them and we'll send them to you guys just for the best tweet of the day, given what we're talking about that day. And if it were up to me, I don't know if TV's going to agree. I'll have to rip them every day. My thought is when we take it off the shelf, we leave that spot empty.
Oh, yeah. That's
and
it.
we're just bringing them down. We're just, kind of the countdown to the end of the show. Just leave it there.
Anyway, so for today, the hashtag is Too Far Tuesday. Let's hear from you, and we'll pick out the ones that we like. In the meantime, let's go off the top. Mike, this is getting to be ridiculous. The Indians win again.
The Windians
are at 19 straight and counting.
Yeah, they're looking to tie the Athletics, the A's, in 2002, the Moneyball, the Billy Bean, the game when they won their 20th in a row. They beat, who was it, the Royals, I think. They were winning 11-0. They blew the league, and Scott Hatteberg hit the game-winning home run to get him to 20. Well, Corey Kluber's pitching for the Indians. I don't think they're going to need a game-winning home run. You know, they destroyed Detroit 11-0 yesterday. By the way, the three teams in front of them, the A's with the 20 wins, the 35 Cubs with 21, and the top team, the 1916 Giants with 26 wins, all in those by the 19 games, the run differential, Cleveland has already beaten that. Cleveland has 100 plus 100 run differential in this 19-game win streak that is going to continue.
Here's what else they might have done.
The top.
The Dodgers lost again. That, by the way, was a game that had a lengthy delay. It ended less than an hour ago.
Less than an hour ago, yeah.
There was a 3-hour and 34-minute delay, and when it was all said and done, the Dodgers lost their 11th straight game.
Yes, they did. 11 straight. So right now, the longest losing streak in Dodgers history is 16 games. That was in 1944. Dodgers are the sixth team in the last 10 seasons to lose at least 16 games in a 17-game span. So this is a team, I mean, we were just saying, wow, they're winning like crazy. They didn't even have Kershaw back at this time. By the way, Kershaw pitches next to try and get him out of the slump, though his last start, he got lit up in a little over 3 innings. So this is amazing what's going on with them, to how good they were to just how bad they are right now.
And so let's put together those two things, the Indians and the Dodgers. Buster Olney tweeted this a little while ago. On the morning of August 25th, the Dodgers were 91-36. The Indians were 72-56. With this Dodger loss, the Indians have closed 15.5 games in 17 days. 15.5 games in 17 days. They're only 4 games behind having the best record in baseball.
Right.
So the Dodgers have gone from the greatest team ever to they probably won't even finish with the best record this season.
It's the time. This is the year the Indians close it out. Not like they did last year. This year they will close it out and win the World Series.
Yeah, they were 1 inning away a year ago. All right, Andrew Luck may be a ways away. The Colts have already ruled him out for Week 2, and according to Adam Schefter, who I was listening to yesterday, it doesn't sound like he's anywhere close to coming back to play.
And you wonder when he is, do you put him out there? Do you say once he's healthy, get him out there and get him playing a little bit, or do you just shelve him for the season?
What would you do?
I mean, there is listen.
At what point? We wouldn't be having this conversation Week 3, Week 4.
No,
what week would you be willing to entertain that discussion?
I mean, do you go half the season? See, here's the thing, because I can sit here easily and say that, but as a player, you want to play. Andrew Luck wouldn't care if it was Week 13. If he were finally given the green light, he would want to play. And I get that. All the players want to play. But at some point, management just sees, listen, we're doing really bad now. If we keep doing really bad and we get a high draft pick, boy, what could we do with that, given we have our quarterback right now? So there is that thought process. But let's see. I mean, if it's in the first quarter, first half of the season, I think you're going to put him out there. But there's a real issue there when they declare him out that quickly, of when this guy, and again, when he's finally going to play, he's going to have been practicing. Remember, he's on the roster. They didn't put him on the PUP list, so he doesn't have to miss the first 6 games. But they declared this one pretty quickly, and now Chuck Pagano gets to choose between Scott Tolzien and Jacoby Brissett as his starting quarterback.
Give a run to Brissett immediately. The second he knows what the playbook looks like, I put him out there.
Listen, you put him in when he was there for 3 hours. I mean, in the last game. Give him the week and let him go play now.
Listen,
absolutely.
I've seen Scott Tolzien, and I don't want to sit here and insult him. But that might have been the worst quarterbacking performance I've ever seen.
And the other one we've seen that was worse, probably with the same team. Remember when Curtis Painter went in the game
of course
years ago?
I do. Arizona one year had a quarterback that played against the Jets they were on their third-string quarterback, and I said that I felt sorry for Larry Fitzgerald. I'm blanking on his name, but it was when they had a couple of injuries. I don't remember. I don't want to say it until we get it right. It was a game against the Jets years ago in which the Jets...
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. I forgot who it was.
It was the worst quarterback play I've ever seen in my life. I said Larry Fitzgerald should have retired at halftime.
If Jacoby Brissett has any grasp of the playbook, then he should be out there starting.
Yeah, Ryan Lindley is who I was trying to think of. Yes, thank you.
Yeah.
Brooksy, the Cardinal fan in my ear. Ryan Lindley. And finally, speaking of the Cardinals.
Wow.
This was a brutal week 1 for injuries. I mean, it feels like every year we say this. But this was brutal, and among them, David Johnson, who's a lot of people's first pick in the fantasy draft and obviously an extraordinarily important player for that team of greater consequence, has a dislocated left wrist.
Yeah, he's going to get a second opinion, but the early prognosis, he's going to need surgery and miss the season. It's interesting on dislocations. You look at Ronald Darby, the cornerback for the Eagles.
Yeah.
If you saw that play, you saw it. That was one where they told you to possibly look away if you don't like that because his ankle was dislocated. He doesn't need surgery. He may only be out 4 to 6 weeks. Think about dislocated ankle, no surgery, out 4 to 6. Dislocated wrist, looks like he's going to need surgery, out the entire year. And again, just to tell you, this guy has played in every game, all 33 in his career. He played the highest percentage of offensive snaps amongst running backs last season at 83%. This guy's on the field all the time. He's their best player. I mean, Larry Fitzgerald's walking to the Hall of Fame, but Larry's at the end of his career. This guy is just starting his career. He's a phenomenal player, and man, does this hurt the Cardinals. He out for the year.
Brutal injury. Off the top with Mike and Mike is presented by Progressive Insurance. You could save hundreds on your car, business, or recreational vehicle insurance from a local independent agent. Go to Progressive.com today. Now that's Progressive. And, oh, yes, a double dip of Monday night action for you last night. We'll start with the early game, Mike, as the Vikings take apart the Saints in a game where the final score is not indicative of how one-sided it was. And, Mike, you picked the Vikings to make the playoffs this year. A lot of people really like them, and my hesitation on them was that I didn't know that I believe in the quarterback. And at least for one night, and I think New Orleans' defense is pretty bad, but at least for one night, Sam Bradford was spectacular.
Well, here's the interesting thing. It was Hembo, you and I were talking about the offenses. Think about the two offenses that we saw open it up. Kansas City on Thursday night, which seems like it was about a month ago, the Kansas City New England opener, where Alex Smith, the quarterback there, Sam Bradford, the quarterback for Minnesota, what did we basically say? They've been called just manage the game, don't turn the ball over. Alex Smith throws out of his mind. Sam Bradford throws out of his mind. Sam Bradford, for his night, breaking it down, was 8 of 9 for 219 yards and a touchdown on passes thrown 15 or more yards down the field. He was 16 of 18 for 250 yards, 10 first downs, and 2 touchdowns when he targeted Thielen and Diggs. I mean, the ball was going down the couple of touchdowns of Diggs. Rudolph had one in the fourth quarter, but hoisting the ball down the field. The defense, listen, this defense, you look at the Saints, they had 344 yards and 19 points. Against Drew Brees, that's a big win for the defense, quite honestly. Now, where you're going to pump the brakes a little bit is Minnesota was, 5-0 last year, got decimated by injuries, and that was the end of that. And a lot of it was on the O-line. This is an O-line that is 5 new starters. You don't see that a whole lot. 5 new starters on that O-line. We'll talk about Dalvin Cook and what he did in rushing for. He broke Adrian Peterson's record for first game, with the program. What was it? Peterson was 102 or 103 yards, I believe. Cook ran for 127 last night.
Yes.
He has got some great outside speed, caught a few passes as well. I think you'll see more and more of that. New offensive line, new running back, new hope, and the ball going downfield. You have to go, wow. And we'll see, because you're right. The Saints' defense isn't the greatest defense. They're not world beaters by any stretch of the imagination. But if you're a Viking fan, you know you have a stellar defense. And if you can see your offense put up some points and put up some yards with some of these players they have, man, you got to be feeling pretty good.
Cook, 127 rushing yards. Adrian Peterson's previous record had been 103 for a player in his first game as a Viking. So a sensational debut for him, and they look good in a lot of different places. They were spreading it out with Diggs and Thielen, and Rudolph caught a touchdown. But the story of the night is Sam Bradford. Again,
Yep.
Golick gave you some of the broken down numbers. Let's just give you his night.
Yeah.
27 of 32. That's basically 85% completion. 346 yards, 3 passing touchdowns, and no interceptions. That is, in the estimation of Steve Young, elite quarterback play.
No, Sam Bradford, the game ball does not go to the offensive line. It goes to you. That is elite quarterbacking. The best I've seen Sam Bradford all the way through the end zone. Everything he did tonight was all pro. And if he can continue to do that, look what that stingy little Viking defense
Was that the
did.
artistry you were looking for?
That's the artistry. Put it into the end zone. It wasn't just between the 30s. Once they got down there, he figured out ways to put it in the end zone. But he made so many pro throws tonight. I think it was as elite as I've seen him in his whole career.
You know, the thing about Bradford is last year he set an NFL single-season record with 71.6 completion percentage, but they weren't considered that big play offense, right?
Yes, because every one of his passes was 4 yards.
Exactly. So here he completes, as you mentioned, about 85% of his passes, but passes going downfield to the tune of 386 yards, and certainly a key to all of that is accuracy and don't throw interceptions. And he didn't throw one last night and gets big plays downfield by his wide receivers because you wondered who was going to be that go-to guy, and it was, again, Thielen for the yards. Diggs had a couple of touchdown catches, one on a broken coverage where he was wide open, another he did a nice job two-stepping in the corner of the end zone and having control of the ball. So, and they got the running game going. That was the big thing for them. That O-line was a mess last year, and we'll see. It's one game, but they revamped the whole thing. They have a young, fresh running back in Dalvin Cook, and he really showed his stuff last night.
You know how much I love Dalvin Cook. He's my pick for Rookie of the Year, and he was terrific last night. So that's the good news for the Vikings. All the news for the Vikings last night.
Well, real quick, good. I know we're going to go now. Real quick, let me get this in. Dalvin Cook, Kareem Hunt, and Leonard Fournette all rushed for over 100 yards. There were three rookies. The last time three rookies had 100 yards rushing in their season opener, it came in 1979.
But I haven't seen it yet. So 1979?
Yeah.
Three rookies in their opener. Mm-hmm. 79.
It's impressive. You were going to try and take a stab
at
this.
Would that be Eric Dickerson?
No.
Okay. Give me some kind of a hint. Just give me one of them.
Otis Anderson.
Okay, I'm not going to get it. Go ahead.
William Andrews. The one you maybe had a shot at, if I gave you some hints, is Jerry Eckwood. That was tongue in cheek.
Yes,
that was
sarcasm. He was the guitarist in a band I grew up liking.
But I mean, pretty impressive. And you look at other ones. I mean, you look at the kid Tariq Cohen from
Tariq Cohen.
Tariq Cohen from Chicago.
He's 5'6", 185 pounds, and he is dynamite. I love watching that guy play.
I did as well. And also, you look at even last night for as we go to the Saints and we talk about the Adrian Peterson side of it, the Kamara kid from Tennessee.
People love him.
Now, he didn't get a lot rushing the ball, but he'll catch the ball out of the backfield in the NFL of today, and especially in that offense, he'll make some grabs out of the backfield like Ingram. So the rookie running backs coming in, Christian McCaffrey had compared to the other ones, more pedestrian, but still catches out of the backfield, rushes, returns. He's doing kind of the all-everything.
I had him on DraftKings. He didn't do anything. Christian McCaffrey did not give you nearly enough. Believe me, all these guys had much better weeks than Christian McCaffrey.
Okay.
Take it from one who knows.
Okay, whatever.
But that's not the story.
No.
The story is Adrian Peterson, because all of the hype, and appropriately so, leading into this game, was Adrian Peterson's return to Minnesota. That's nice scheduling on this, a big standalone Monday night game to have Adrian Peterson going back to Minnesota that quickly. And his night was extremely uneventful. 6 rushes, 18 yards. And the cameras did appear to capture him at one point yelling at Sean Payton. Now, for the record, both Payton and Peterson deny the notion that he was actually yelling at him, and I actually believe him. If you sort of try to read his lips, and if you went on Adrian Peterson's Twitter feed afterwards, he said basically he was trying to tell him, we need to run the ball right up there behind.
He tweeted, he said, let's be clear. I said, we need to run the ball up their donkey. He didn't say donkey.
Correct.
And you could read his lips. I mean, you could read the word he's saying. He said, I said, we need to run the ball up their donkey. Nothing more. I'm passionate, but respect my coach at the same time.
So I don't think we have a problem there.
I don't either. And you know what? Even if he was upset, emotion on the sideline, I'm not going to get bent out of shape. But I agree with you.
They asked Sean Payton about it afterwards.
We weren't in any heated exchange. Listen, I'd tell you if we were in a heated exchange, so why don't you ask him? But I think he was into it. We were all into it. There was none that I can recall. And I'm being honest, so.
Listen, he was at 6 rushes, 18 yards, no catches. He was in the game for 9 plays. They tried to get him a pass by the end zone late in the game. On a play action, he was in by the end zone, and he broke out to the right, a run out in the flats, and Breeze rolled that way. It was meant for him, and he was covered, so Breeze had to throw it away. Kamara had 7 rushes. Peterson had 6 rushes. Ingram had 6 rushes. The 2 other guys did have receptions out of the backfield. Listen, this offense I know Adrian Peterson gets another year, going to play in New Orleans. This offense is not a between the tackles running team. They're not. So this is going to, and they're not basically a running team. They live off Drew Brees' arm. Did you hear John Gruden last night at one point said, they were running, at one point they had 15 carries for like 41 yards, and Gruden said everyone's going to complain, why is Drew Brees handing the ball off? That means he's not throwing it down the field somewhere. That's what this offense needs. But you want to run the ball. I get it. You want the attempts and such. And last night they had 21 attempts for 60 yards, under 3 yards a rush. They are not a rushing team, and they are definitely not a between the tackles rushing team. So Adrian Peterson's style, quite honestly, doesn't necessarily fit the Saints very well, especially with Ingram and Kamara. These guys can bounce it outside a little more and catch balls out of the backfield, but he's a good changeup. But Adrian Peterson is walking into the Hall of Fame and doesn't want to be a good changeup. He wants to be the back, but he had to know that going there, that, he did start the game. He's not going to be that 15 to 20 carry a guy game.
Well, we've got something for you coming up on Adrian Peterson in a moment. Wait till you hear what one of our guys said they should do with him, and we'll get to the Broncos and the Chargers coming up in a minute as well. But we do In the Zone. It's brought to you by AutoZone. Drive the new Duralast GT brake pads, proven tough from the tracks to the streets and sold only at AutoZone. Get in the zone with AutoZone. And let's do it, Mike, since you put them together. Let's do it here. Alex Smith and Sam Bradford.
Yeah.
Both had huge week ones, both known sort of as quote-unquote game managers. Mm-hmm. Do you know what one other thing they have in common is? People, I think, sometimes don't even think of this. Like, you know it, but you probably don't think of it until I'm just going to say it because it dawned on me as you were saying it. They were both the number one pick in the draft.
Oh, they were.
They were both, and Alex Smith and Sam Bradford were each the first pick in the draft. And we've seen what's happened.
We've seen Bradford, he's with his third team.
Right.
And Alex with his second.
And he's playing well right now.
Yeah.
But whatever. The point is, they are both off to huge starts. Mm-hmm. They are both very much in the zone, at least through 1 week of the season. We're Mike and Mike, presented by Progressive Insurance. Our guests appearing on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line as we get this thing rolling. And again, coming up next, wait until you hear what one of our guys last night said which team should be making a move and for whom right now.
Hey everyone, Mike Golick here. Support for Mike and Mike podcast comes from our friends at Rocket Mortgage by Quicken Loans. Chances are you're confident when it comes to your work, your hobbies, your life. Rocket Mortgage gives you that same level of confidence when it comes to buying a home or refinancing your existing home loan. With Rocket Mortgage, you can apply simply and understand fully so you can mortgage confidently. To get started, go to rocketmortgage.com/Mikes. Equal housing lender, licensed in all 50 states, NMLS consumeraccess.org number 3030.
Guys don't really talk about antiperspirant. Despite that, 91% of Dove Men Plus Care users recommend it. Here's what they said.
It blocks the, perspiration, I think is the fancy word.
It's comfortable. It smells nice. My girl likes the smell.
Well, it's hard.
I think it's quite masculine. My underarms aren't the worst thing at the gym.
It's kind of like the Hoover Dam from my armpits, I guess.
Dove Men Plus Care antiperspirant. Tough on sweat, not on skin.
All right, let me give you three things on Alex Smith and Sam Bradford. You brought them up. I'll give you credit. You sort of organically brought them up. I can now give you 3 notes on them. Okay, the first and most obvious is that they were both once upon a time the first pick in the NFL draft. Mm-hmm. Alex Smith by San Francisco and Sam Bradford by the then St. Louis Rams. So a great deal was expected of them, obviously, and we know where they are now. Last season, Alex Smith was second to last in air yards per pass attempt, so how far the ball traveled.
Right.
The only person who threw the ball shorter all year.
Let me guess. Sam Bradford.
Yeah, that's very well played.
Thank you.
You've got the theme down. And then now, through 1 week, and it is only 1 week, Sam Bradford and Alex Smith were the only quarterbacks to post a QBR of 90 or higher in week 1. So even Jared Goff didn't, and I didn't think he could play any better than he did. But Bradford had a 93.9 QBR, and Alex Smith against New England, 91.8. So those two off to, by that standard of measure, the best starts of any quarterbacks in the NFL.
Yeah, I mean, again, impressive because it was different. Now, again, it's 1 week, so we'll see where this is going to go. Do they keep this up? Is this the new kind of way the offense is going to run? I think in Minnesota with new running back, young running back, speedy, can run to the outside, can has some speed, can catch out of the backfield, brand new offensive line. You really wonder where this is going to go. And then the young, I mean, both these, Kareem Hunt. I mean, Dalvin Cook was a name you expected. Kareem Hunt was not. You know, this is a guy that wasn't, the expectation wasn't there, but they obviously knew it in Kansas City and Andy Reid because he got the workload early, the early fumble, and then he just went off the rest of the game. So these young running backs coming in, getting it done.
It gives us a chance to say Holy Toledo a lot, which I think
there you go.
Will be fun. To the 1-800-Flowers.com Twitter feed quickly here, and the hashtag is Too Far Tuesday. Looking for your predictions that go just a little bit too far. I like this one from Jason.
I agree.
Stephon Diggs will break Randy Moss's single-season wide receiving touchdown record of 23.
So he had 2 last night. He had 3 in 13 games all of last season. So he was already 1 shy of all of last season in 13 games. So that's a good Too Far Tuesday. Probably won't happen, but, you know, right now he's on pace for 32 touchdown receptions.
Rodrigo, this one is too far. Tom Brady won't finish as Patriots starter, and it's not injury-related.
Yeah, that's not going to happen. I agree with that.
I think that one is too far. Bradley Bledsoe tweets, the Rams will win the NFC West and host a playoff game in L.A. Hashtag Too Far Tuesday. I'd ask if they do, will anyone show up? You see the crowd in L.A. the other day? My goodness.
All they got to do is put how many in that stadium?
It's like 90,000.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. No, that'll obviously never happen.
No, the Chargers are the ones playing in a soccer stadium.
In the 30,000
The Rams
stadium.
are playing in the Coliseum. That holds 90,000, and they had like 800 people there.
They're not going to fill it, but you would like to see.
Did you hear the reason why people were giving? It was hot. People were saying, it's hot. In L.A., they don't go to football games when it's hot.
And they have other
in Green Bay, they go to football games when it's 50 degrees below zero. In L.A., they didn't go because it was hot.
We're yelling about this like this is something new? This has been going on forever with football in L.A.
It's hot. I can't go to a football game when it's hot.
There's something else I need to do. Well, listen, they're never going to get 90,000, but you'd like to get 50 to 70,000.
No,
it would be nice.
Well, listen, I have no issue with this. I love L.A. I have no problem with them having a team. It is the ownership of the Rams that moved them that makes me infuriated. And what they'll say now is, well, you know, they haven't been a good team, so why would you expect people to go to the games? That's what they were complaining about in St. Louis. They've stunk forever, so fans stopped going to games, so they moved the team. They're not moving them out of L.A.
No.
Lamont Falls tweets at us, my Browns, this is Too Far Tuesday. My Browns will finish 8-8.
I liked what the Browns did. It was a close game in Week 1 against Pittsburgh.
But 8-8's too far.
8-8, but you know what?
You're going to tell me the Browns are going to go 8-8?
No, I'm not. But this isn't. You know, Trevor Siemian is the NFL MVP, which is too far.
There's a better chance that Trevor Siemian will be the MVP than the Browns are going to go 8-8.
No, I completely disagree with that.
How about this one from Spartacus Papadopoulos?
If you just stuck with Spartacus, it would have been a lot better than
as God is my witness, that says Papadopoulos.
Papadopoulos?
Doesn't it? You're looking at
Papadopoulos.
Right?
Just stick with Spartacus.
Hashtag Too Far Tuesday. The Jets will finish with a better record than the G-Men.
That's too far.
Much too far.
Yeah.
Keep those coming, though. I like them. Hashtag Too Far Tuesday all morning long through the 1-800-Flowers.com Twitter feed. And how about this? Is this too far? After Adrian Peterson got very little action last night, and again, there was a little momentary belief that he had a blow up on the sideline with Sean Payton, which even if it had happened, might not have been that big a deal. But I totally believe them both when they say it didn't happen. That notwithstanding, you said he doesn't really fit into what they do.
Right.
Right? And I think a lot of people thought that when they signed him. So here's a little snippet of a conversation from last night's Monday night crew. And wait till you hear what Charles Woodson suggests might be the next move here for Adrian Peterson and one other team that desperately needs a running back.
This is the difference, I feel like, between a Belichick team and that organization and the Saints. You take what they did in the offseason, they traded for Coney Ealy. They brought him over there to the team. They found out he didn't fit their system. What did they do? They cut him. They got rid of him. What does it do? It gives him a chance to go somewhere else and get into a system that fits him, and it creates a roster spot for somebody on their team.
They're not going to cut Adrian Peterson. I'm just saying it doesn't fit.
Why not?
You might trade him.
You could trade him. New York Giants, I know y'all need one. Make the call.
How about that? New York Giants, who could not run the ball at all the other day, get Adrian Peterson is what he's saying. Might cost them nothing. Could you get Adrian Peterson right now for a 6th round?
But here's the difference. If a team like the Giants is going to do that, then you have to commit to actually attempting to run the ball. They ran it 12 times last week, and that was what everybody was saying about Ben McAdoo, not from the play calling standpoint, is at least have the attempts to run. Get him out there. We've always, sometimes it's not the yards, but if you have 20, 25 carries, you have the thought of a run, it may help you. So it would do you no good to have Adrian Peterson if you're running 12, 15 times a game. You got to run it more than that. But the thought process behind it, there are many teams I could see AP fitting in way more than the Saints. I never thought it was a good fit when he went there in the first place, given how that offense runs and how he runs, what his game is, and where he could help some of the other teams, quite honestly. And the Giants certainly would be one of them. Now, I'm not sitting there and saying all of a sudden you got a 1,000-yard rusher. You still run that offensive line has their issues. I don't think you're ever going to be a great running team, but that would fit more the style of Adrian Peterson, as would more than a few other teams. I think it's an interesting point being brought up early in the season. If you're not going to use this guy a lot, if you can, I have no idea if you can trade him. I don't know about, any of that, but all I know is he would fit on a lot of other teams way better than he fits with the Saints.
Late game last night, Broncos hold off the Chargers. Again, the Chargers have 2 opportunities at a late game-tying field goal. They make the first, but they had the timeout call that Vance Joseph, I'm assuming many people who were up at this hour didn't stay up and watch the end of this game. Vance Joseph calls the timeout. They line up and do it again. This time they block it.
You see the kick and weren't sure at first, but Vance Joseph was right next to the official and called that timeout, and the kick was good. It would have tied it up 24-all. They do it again, and Shelby Harris, he gets pressure right where you can't have it on a field goal, right up the gut. Not around the end, big man right through the middle between the center and the guard, gets a hand up, and he blocks it and preserves the win for the Denver Broncos, who are up 24-7 going into the fourth quarter. They were cruising in this game, but, that's Phillip Rivers. That's going to be, a couple of sentences after, going into the Hall of Fame is he's always given the ball down a couple of scores in the fourth quarter to bring his team back.
Right.
And he does. They score a touchdown, and then Denver promptly fumbles the ball, and they score another touchdown. All of a sudden, they're within the field goal of tying in 3 seconds of tying the game, save for the paw of Shelby Harris of blocking the kick.
Chargers 1-5 in games decided by 3 or fewer since the start of last season. So, Mike, is that bad luck? Is that the fact that you're doing something wrong? Is that not knowing how to execute late in games? You'd think with a quarterback like Phillip Rivers, that would be flipped in the other direction.
They're just falling short, and it is one of those things that mentally you start to wonder about when you get in that position and you haven't gotten it done. It's like, okay, what's going to happen this time? How do we blow it this time? Or can we finally pull one off, which we can kind of reverse it a little bit? But forgetting the physical side of it, it can hamper you mentally.
All right, coming up next, brutal injury news, including for one team that had maybe the biggest win of the weekend, but also suffered maybe the biggest loss.
Dad, we talk a lot about sports.
Yes, we do.
And food.
Yep.
And sometimes even health.
That is true.
In a recent survey, the Cleveland Clinic found that today's fathers and sons are talking more about their health than previous generations, but there's still a conversation gap around below-the-belt issues.
Cleveland Clinic wants to remind all men to mention it to their doctor.
Doctors have heard it all before, especially Cleveland Clinic. They're ranked #1 in urology in the nation.
And they've got answers to 10 questions most men are afraid to ask at clevelandclinic.org/mention it.
All right, again, we're taking your hashtag #TooFarTuesday tweets today, and we had Christopher tweeting, Eli Manning will set the unfortunate NFL record of most sacks in a season. Mike, you were very close. Randall Cunningham was sacked 72 times in 1986, but the record is David Carr, his rookie year in Houston when he was sacked 76 times. So you're good at simple math, Mike, 16, 32. So that's almost – so 76 is exact – help me. Is that exactly 4 times a game? Is that exactly 4 times a game?
4 times 16 is 64.
64. No, it's more than that. So it's 4.5 times a game, right? Almost 4. It's more than 4.5 times a game.
Yeah.
So that's – and Carr was also third with 68 sacks in 2005.
He got beat up. And I remember that was the year before I got to Philadelphia. I remember that Cunningham getting sacked like that. Listen, for as much as they throw the ball, that's why the talk about Ben McAdoo is – attempt more runs, or you are going to put Eli in a very tough situation unless he's getting rid of the ball quickly, didn't get sacked, or he's going to get hit a lot because he is going to throw the ball a lot.
Let me ask you this, because you were a defensive lineman, so all kidding aside, and we used to have a researcher who worked here for years named Russell Baxter, and he would be on our show all the time. And he would always bring that stat up. It's about rushing attempts. It's about rushing attempts. I mean, I can still hear his voice in my head saying that. But it feels to me like sort of a chicken and egg thing. If you're running the ball unsuccessfully, it means you probably have a lot of short possessions, so you're punting a lot. You don't have the number of plays, and at some point you kind of give up on the idea. Do you not run the ball because you just can't? And if you were to bring in a guy, I'm just making this up, like Adrian Peterson, would it increase your ability?
It could. Well, certainly. I mean, if you think he's a better running back than what you have, then yeah, it could. But still, it's tough to make, you're asking a guy at times to make something out of nothing. If the holes aren't there, he has to find a hole or create a hole. So it can be difficult. And as far as the attempts, as a defensive player, unless the game where you have to ditch the game plan, where you're down so much or it's late in the game and you got to change to something else, a 2-minute offense, a 4-minute offense, whatever it is, there is something to keep into the continuity of not letting the defensive line just put the butt high in the air, get hard on that stance and come flying, a hand in the dirt, leaning on it and just come flying off the ball on every single play. Now, you may do it anyway and just say, well, stop the run on the way to the quarterback. But knowing that, if you come flying out the ball, you're not taking care of your responsibility, they could bust a long run if they keep attempting it. Once, like the Giants, they're not doing it anymore. You want to talk about even a guy like me who wasn't a pass rusher, defensive linemen will lick their chops and say, well, that's the only thing I have to worry about because they just flat out aren't trying to run the ball.
Yeah. And going back quickly to the previous stat here, could David Carr have been a great quarterback? You want to ask a question, how important is circumstance, is situation to players' success, particularly in that sport? In fact, I'd say more in football than all the other sports put together. David Carr was sacked 76 times in his rookie season. His younger brother, who was not considered to be as good a prospect as David coming in. David was the first pick in the draft. Derek Carr went in the second round. 3 quarterbacks went in the first round the year Derek Carr went in the second round. He's been sacked 73 times in 48 games.
Right.
So, he's had a chance. If David Carr had been drafted by this team with this great offensive line and good weapons around him, who knows what his career would have been. Okay, let's do Straight Talk. It's brought to you by Straight Talk Wireless, Buzz Phones, Best Networks, no contracts. Among the teams that had the best wins in Week 1, you'd have to put Jacksonville.
Yes.
Going on the road and having a magnificent win in the division, even though they didn't do a whole lot offensively. But they were one of the many teams that suffered a significant loss. One of the Allens is down. Allen Robinson tore the ACL. He's done for the year.
Done for the year.
Mike, run through the injury list because it is brutal.
Well, go back to let's remember there was a game Thursday that opened the season, and that was the Chiefs and New England. And then in that game, the Chiefs, who had a great win, lost Eric Berry, their all-pro safety, to an Achilles tendon tear. He's done for the year. Danny Amendola had a head injury in that game. Donta Hightower, a knee injury in that game. You mentioned Allen Robinson. He is done for the year. Last night, Zach Streif, the offensive tackle for the Saints, he went out of this game. David Johnson, we mentioned for the Cardinals, dislocated wrist. If he has surgery, he'll be done for the year. Danny Woodhead, the Ravens, had a big win over Cincinnati. Danny Woodhead suffered a hamstring injury in that game, didn't return. Stephon Tuitt just signed an extension, the D lineman for the Steelers, $60 million extension, then unfortunately went out and we heard torn biceps. Now, some are saying it's not as bad as they thought. If he tore his biceps, it's going to be done for the year. So some are saying it's not as bad. I don't think, Hembo, we have the full report yet on if they lost him for the year or not, but that would certainly hurt them. Ronald Darby, the cornerback for the Eagles, you saw it if you watched it, dislocated his ankle. Now, he may only be out 4 to 6. We'll see about that. Kevin White, you want to talk about a guy plagued with injuries. Kevin White was a first-round pick of the Bears in 2017. So this is his 3rd year. In the opening game against Atlanta, it was just his 5th game, and he got hurt. And he's probably going to be out, and he's going to be out for the season.
Yeah, collarbone, right?
His scapula, his shoulder blade. So this guy, talk about plagued with injury. Reuben Foster from Alabama, the great linebacker that went to San Francisco.
He was carted off.
Got carted off, set a lower leg. Now it looks like it's an ankle. How about, 5 Houston Texans?
There are 5 Houston
Texans that are in the concussion protocol off the first game, including their 3 tight ends, Brian Cushing, the linebacker as well, that will not play Thursday. And this is where we have gotten better and progressed. I don't know how many years ago. I put it at 10. It might even be less than that, quite honestly. Those 5 guys would all be playing on Thursday. X amount of years ago.
And a short week.
Yeah,
too.
And wouldn't even have been, there would have been headaches. They would have had rid of the headache, and they've gone out and played. So we've come a ways from that side of it to these guys sitting out of the game. So plenty of injuries. It always seems like there's more than the year before, but you know what? You get a lot of these injuries every year, a lot of times early on.
Straight Talk Wireless, nationwide coverage on America's largest and most dependable 4G LTE networks. A lot of people have a lot of questions about exactly where we are in the court system with the Zeke Elliott stuff. We will get good answers for you in our next hour. Stay there, Mike and Mike.
First time skydiving?
Sure is.
Okay, you just open the door like this and you jump. Oh, wait.
Should we be like in tandem?
Tandem? That's a great idea.
Are you a certified instructor?
No, but I love parachutes and I love people. Here we go.
You wouldn't take chances with an uncertified skydiving instructor. Don't do it with your finances. Find a certified financial planner professional today at letsmakeaplan.org. CFP. Work with the highest standard.
Home isn't just a place, it's a feeling. Whether you're at home, your business, or online, ADT helps keep you safe. With security systems, home automation, alarms, and surveillance. So you can feel at home, wherever you are. Go to ADT.com to get that feeling. ADT. Home. Safe home.
Our Mike and Mike presented by Progressive Insurance. Guests on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line, and in this hour they will include our legal analyst, Ryan Smith. And here's the reason we wanted to get Ryan on is, A, the Zeke Elliott, the initial decision to grant him the temporary restraining order came down Friday late in the day. So after we were done with our show, and then obviously we had a full Saturday of college and a full Sunday of NFL, so yesterday wasn't the day to dive into that. And since that decision was made, the NFL has gone back and filed its paperwork.
Right.
There's a deadline of something for tomorrow and something else for Friday. And I feel like a lot of people see these things and don't really have an understanding of what they mean, and I'm one of them, so we'll get answers to those questions.
The bottom line is, as soon as we saw Zeke was allowed to play, we had an outcome. Zeke was not going to be allowed to play. Zeke's going to be allowed to play. I think everybody pushed this to the side, and now we can ask, okay, what's next? We don't want to dive into it anymore because we know he's on the field, so we'll let our legal guy, Ryan Smith, dive into it for us because he does a great job explaining to it in a way that I can understand.
Actually, Donovan McNabb was on yesterday saying that he thinks that it's a distraction to the Cowboys, however it turns out. I'll play that for you coming up a little bit later here. Could be interesting. Meanwhile, the hashtag this morning is Too Far Tuesday.
Right.
So we've seen every team in the NFL now, save for the Buccaneers and Dolphins, of course. And the question is, or the suggestion here is, give us something that's a little too far.
Right.
Just give us something you think that you've now observed that you think is going to stand that's just a little bit too far. Don't go ridiculously far. Like Trevor Siemian will make Broncos fans forget about John Elway.
That would be too far.
That's too far.
That's too far.
Trevor Siemian is the best quarterback in the NFL today. Not too far. So you make up your own mind on how these things work, and then we'll do the Too Far Tuesdays.
That with a straight face. And what else we're doing is, like today, it's Too Far Tuesday. So out of those tweets, we'll pick the best one. And as we wind down to the end of the show, Mike and Mike in November, each day, the best tweet out there, and today it will be about Too Far Tuesday, I will walk behind me at the end of the show, and I will take a bobblehead off the shelf, and Green and I will both sign it, and we'll send it to the best tweet of the day. And we'll do that each day until the end of the show. And if my thought is to leave that spot blank then and end up with an empty shelves by the end of the show.
We'll have to do more than one a day then. I'm just looking.
We'll find a way. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Well, so we'll start to, but we'll do the first one today.
Yeah.
So the hashtag is Too Far Tuesday, and they're coming in here.
Yes, they are. I like this one, right? Felix, due to the injury of the Cardinals running back, Adrian Peterson will end up with the Cardinals.
I mean, people have now put Adrian Peterson on a lot of different teams, considering he only had 6 carries last night for the Saints, and just doesn't appear to be a good fit. He looks like a square peg in a round hole in that New Orleans offense. Charles Woodson was suggesting the Giants. The Cardinals obvly have the major injury there.
Plenty of teams that could use him not as the main back carrying it 25 times a game, but as part of a back rotation, but that would fit more along the lines of what their offense can do or how they would run the ball.
Steve Snurkowski tweets, Dalvin Cook will be the offensive rookie of the year, hashtag Too Far Tuesday. Steve, Listen, I tweeted that the night of the draft. Dalvin Cook, you could just see it. You watch the kid play in college. He's not Zeke Elliott, but he's that kind of he translates in that kind of way.
Translates to this kind of game. And remember, this is the first time since 1979 we've had 3 rookie running backs go for over 100 yards. He did it, Leonard Fournette did it, and Kareem Hunt did it for the Chiefs on opening night on Thursday night.
I'm not taking anything away from Fournette. Maybe this is even adding on to Fournette, but they have no passing game. Right?
No.
So in Kansas City, Smith had a huge night week 1. He's not known to put up huge numbers, but he's a good, solid, competent quarterback at minimum, right? Last night, Sam Bradford, let's see, solid, competent quarterback. In Jacksonville, they're trying to hide the quarterback.
Yes,
they're
are.
They're trying to pretend they don't have one.
In spite of the quarterback.
So I don't know if whether you make that a positive or a negative for Fournette, but he is going to get a lot of
He's going to get a lot of carries and he's going to get a lot of hits. That's right. For sure.
That makes it both a plus and a minus.
Daryl says Andy Dalton will be benched. A.J. McCarron will be named the starter by week 5.
Is that too far for you?
I'm glad you put a week on it. No, I mean, the Bengals feel like they're playing for something. I mean, they came out of the gates in an ugly way. I mean, there is no doubt that players will start feeling pressure if things aren't going well early in the season. The coach, this coach, Marvin Lewis, has been on the hot seat more than a few times and has survived it. You know, there comes a time, rarely do they coach, somewhere and they end their career, in a 20-year string. So a lot of times, as we say, coaches are hired to be fired. So that chatter will start. Boy, well, listen, let me put it this way. If Andy Dalton keeps having a 0.6 quarterback rating for the next 3 or 4 weeks, yeah, it'll happen. But I obviously don't believe that he'll keep playing that bad.
Keep the tweets coming. Mike and Mike brought to you by Upside. Now save big on travel and get a big gift card with every trip you buy. You'll love Upside.com, Upside.com. So today it's Too Far Tuesday. Was this too far Saturday? Something the University of Maryland did got a lot of attention. Mm-hmm. It got me to thinking, do we have no shame? No shame anymore. The Maryland Terrapins, from their own verified Twitter account, tweeted the following. Breaking. This was during their game. It was on Friday they tweeted it, but they tweeted this about their game on Saturday. Breaking. If the Terps return a punt for a touchdown in tomorrow's second half, one Maryland student will win $10,000. Hashtag must be present to win. They're giving away $10,000 if one of the Maryland student athletes runs a punt back for a touchdown. Obviously, the one who gets the money will not be the one running it back for the touchdown. My question is, what if one of the basketball players wins? What if one of the basketball players is there, must be present to win, doesn't say must not be a varsity athlete, must not be a scholarship athlete, and thus subjected to the ridiculous rules that we subject these kids to? So they're giving $10,000 to a student because a football player runs a kickback for a touchdown. Is this okay with you?
It's fine by me. Why would I have a problem with it? Why do I care?
You don't find that?
No, I don't dig into every little thing like you and Jay Billis of what's wrong with the NCAA if a dollar is handed out to somebody.
So this kid runs back a touchdown for the team.
So what?
Someone else, as a result of his play, is going to get $10,000.
So what? No, I don't care. That's fine by me. It's fine by me. You and Jay can have your conversation and yell and scream about it and say how the world is in a horrible place because of it. I'm gonna just let it go.
You can verbalize it that way if it makes you feel better. But the reality of it is the system is ridiculous.
I didn't say.
Are you looking at the way they're setting up? Jay happens to be 100% right in a lot of the things that he's saying. Have you seen what some of these locker rooms look like? They talk about not having money.
Yeah.
They are building locker rooms that look like they're like NASA.
I know, but these indentured players. Oh, how do they live in those locker rooms? Are they okay? Are they okay not getting $10,000 like that? They have to go live in those posh locker rooms and with the Papa Shots and the pool tables. They have it so difficult. Let's all play the little violin for the scholarship athletes that have to deal with a locker that costs $10,000 each. Give me a break. Just stop.
Well, but the point is, no one can suggest the reason not to pay the players or to give them something is because there isn't enough money to do it.
I've never said that.
So what is the reason?
Money. They don't want to start paying them. They don't want to pay them. They don't want to pay them because then they pay basketball, and you got to find a way to pay the other ones. Everybody's working, unless you're just picking the revenue sports. And, oh, by the way, there are dozens of revenue sports that are losing revenue. All these football programs don't make money. There's 128 Division I. There's probably 60 or so that don't make money.
Right.
So it's a revenue sport, but it's losing money. Yet we want to pay them still when they're losing money. So is it only the programs that make money? How about the ones that lose money? Do you pay the basketball players? I mean, listen, we've been down this road before. If you can figure out a way to pay everybody, and I mean everybody who's putting in their 20 hours a week, all right, not just that it has to be a revenue sport. Find a way, okay, that's cool. But, every single time something happens, I got to hear one of you guys just, oh, my God. Oh, they got money to do this. They can't pay come on. These guys are treated great. I'm not saying you can't figure out something at some point to do, but to pick on this, $10,000 to a student off an athlete's back. The athlete does the work, and the student gets a $10,000. Oh, my God. Hell is freezing over. I mean, come on. It's not that big a deal.
But no one is saying hell is freezing over. It's just
you guys are making an issue out of it.
Yeah, well, it is an issue.
No, it's not.
It's not about hell freezing over.
To me, it's not an issue. To you, it's an issue.
They have placed. So let me ask you a question.
Go ahead.
If a Maryland basketball player won that contest, would they give him the money?
I don't know. I don't know the answer.
Is he a student there?
I don't know. He's a student athlete there on scholarship.
He's a student there. He is a student there.
The
word student is in the phrase student athlete.
It's kind of like if we throw out a contest here, we can't win it. Okay, so maybe scholarship.
It's nothing like that.
Maybe,
actually,
it is like
that. It shouldn't be anything like that. Because the people that you're talking about,
ESPN,
right?
All scholarship athletes are all in the same same bubble.
Are they students?
They're student athletes. They're on scholarship.
So they're different.
Yeah, they are. Yes, they're treated different. They can't get money. I mean, what's new? Is this a revelation?
No, but at this point, I think people are finally looking at it more than a few people are finally looking at it and saying,
whatever.
Some of the stipulations, okay, you can say whatever if you want to.
You asked my opinion on it.
Right.
Okay, I'm giving you my opinion on it. I think it's ridiculous. But this is what I understand it. There is another side of it. I get it, and that's fine. If we want to have that discussion, we can have the discussion. If that's where we want to go ahead. Where do we go?
For the record, I've said many times, I'm not in favor of paying the players a salary.
Okay.
Because for all the reasons that you just described,
okay,
it opens up a Pandora's box that I don't know where it goes. Now, if you want to put together a bunch of really smart people, and you would think in this field of education we'd have them, to figure out a system that would be somewhat reasonable and equitable,
right,
so that you would compensate the swimmers and the volleyball players.
I've never been against that.
I don't know that. I don't know that you could or couldn't do it.
And I've never been against that.
But what I do find galling is that you're going to give someone $10,000 because this kid is going to run a punt back for a touchdown. But if after the game he walks into a Subway and they give him a free turkey sandwich, he could lose his scholarship or lose his ability to play.
I don't find it galling at all.
That's the part of it that I think is, it just doesn't make sense. Explain to me the way this makes sense. How does it make sense?
Explain this time and time
again. Go ahead.
Listen, I understand the rules are as far as the free. I get it. The rules are too far, and we keep hearing the rule book is going to get thinner. Haven't seen it get much thinner.
Let me ask you a question.
There are things that are somewhat ridiculous. I grant you that. This I could care less about. And you want to, I'll keep saying, and I see Jay tweeting about it all the time, about the new locker room. Those players get the benefit of that new locker room. Do you see those things? How many of the other regular athletes get to hang out in a place like that? Posh place, pool tables, and Papa shots and all that for nothing, and not have to put in quarters to play pool or pay money to play. They get treated great. Do you see the cold tubs in these places? The lockers are fantastic. So all of a sudden we're going poor athlete? God, I get so sick of that all of a sudden, my God, what are we putting on these guys' shoulders? How can we make them work this hard and get treated so horribly? Stop it.
No, but how many of them are from places where they have younger siblings who are walking to school right now through metal detectors, and it might make a difference if some auto dealership was allowed to give them a few bucks to come out and open it, which everyone in the world would go and see. If you were allowed these guys to actually reap some benefit from all of the work they're doing at this particular moment.
There is talk of going down that road of letting them be sponsored for things, and we did hear that. As I said, I'm open to this discussion. This discussion.
But you don't seem open to it because when I brought it up, you yelled and screamed.
This discussion, there's a difference of having a discussion of Can there be fair and equitable payments to people if possible? And do you see what they're doing here? My God, off the player's back, they're giving a student $10,000. Oh, my God. If I got to read another Jay Billis tweet about, when they say they don't have money, we know they have money. They're just, at this point, they're not paying the players. We understand they're making millions. My point back always is, you know what? The players aren't treated so poorly. All right? The scholars, especially we keep talking about football players, they're treated really well. That's the point I keep trying to say. That's all. I'll have the discussion if you want to start to change things to do. I'm open to the discussion. What I'm sick and tired of is how tough these student athletes have it when we're looking at the great locker rooms and stuff they get to hang out with and how they're treated. They're treated great.
Yeah, I don't think most people think they're not treated great.
Okay.
I think most people think that the system is completely inequitable, and it has become, like so many other things, so obvious when you see the for lack of a better word, the bridge between the haves and the have-nots getting so long. So, for example, I'd love to ask this question. Now, I assume they didn't run a punt back for a touchdown in the second half.
I'm sure we would have heard more about it.
At this point, we would know this. Yeah. So I assume they didn't. But I'm just making this up. If I'm the student, if I was a student at the University of Maryland,
right,
and I won the $10,000 because the kid ran the punt back for a touchdown, and I wanted to buy the player a gift to say thank you. If I wanted to buy him, hey man, you won me $10,000. Can I buy you dinner? I don't think I'd be allowed to do it. I don't think that guy would be allowed to do it.
It still would be done.
Okay, it would be done, but if they got caught, you'd have to do it really carefully and quietly. And a lot of these things that get done, they just get done. They wind up with kids getting suspended.
You think we do? I agree there are some ridiculous rules. You asked me about the premise of, what do you think about a player running it back and a student getting $10,000? I don't care. That's fine by me. If you want to start breaking it down then this kid, can he go buy him the player a Subway sandwich? And if that's against the rules, that I'm with you. I'll have that discussion. You asked me the general question, is this a bad thing? And I said, no. I don't care. Then you started going down into the different areas that you and Jay like to go down. And that's a discussion. If you want to have, that's fine. But that's a little deeper than, do you care if this kid runs a punt back and some student wins $10,000? No, I don't.
Yes, in a vacuum, I don't either. And there's nothing wrong in a world where the system wasn't set up this way. I would have no problem with someone. I've been to 1 million basketball games where guys shoot. In college games, they frequently have kids shoot and they win like their books or whatever it is, right? Or did kids sometimes win their whole tuition or something like that if they shoot like on Midnight Madness? And that part of it. It doesn't feel wrong because the athletes are getting that too, right? They get books too, right? The athletes get books.
Oh yeah.
They get in addition to the scholarship, for the most part. Now I know that there's a differentiation between the full cost of everything and not everything.
Scholarship, yeah.
I don't know. I was never part of this. Obviously, I was not a scholarship athlete in anything, so I don't know the difference how all of them necessarily work. But that one doesn't feel quite the same as this. But there is an element of this that just feels
like... Why doesn't that seem the same? Is that not worth anything?
No, it's
when
worth
you get
something.
your books and board and stuff paid for. Does that not cost?
No, of course it does.
Okay,
yeah.
Why doesn't it feel the same?
Listen, you're arguing with someone else. I have no problem with the players making an equitable transition. We shake hands. This is the rule. We're going to give you this education for free, and as a consequence, you're going to play football for us. For me, it's always ended there.
Sure.
I wouldn't mind a system where the players get paid, but I can't figure one out that would work.
I'm with you.
It is all the other restrictions on them that I find.
I agree with that. There are some
completely insane.
There are some ridiculous restrictions. I completely agree with you on that. In that, we are agreement. I just get a little tired of the overboard, in my opinion, talk sometime about just how tough the student athlete has it, when I know for a fact it's not as tough as people think it is.
Yeah, well, I don't disagree with you. I can't speak for anyone else, so I'll just speak for me. For me, it has nothing to do with the student-athlete having it tough. I don't think they have it tough. Now, I mean, there have been those stories. Who was the kid? His name just jumped out of my head at Connecticut who said he couldn't, Shabazz Napier, who said he couldn't get food at the time. I don't know, though, that stuff.
Right.
So maybe there are stories like that out there. There's more of those.
And when that came out, I had said I never went hungry one time. And by the way, I'm doing pretty well now. When I was in school, not so much. If I had $10 in my pocket when I was at Notre Dame, I was lucky. If I didn't have a scholarship to go to Notre Dame, I wasn't going to. We couldn't even think about affording that. I barely had money in my pocket. I never went hungry. But that was me. So if Shabazz Napier, I believe, was his name.
Shabazz Napier, correct.
Now, you know what? I'm glad they changed that. Now,
Right.
now, I mean, there's food everywhere for these guys. They can have snacks anytime. I personally never went hungry, and I barely had any money in my pocket. I was able to be just fine. But if others didn't, okay, they complained about it, and I will give the NCAA credit on that one. They did. It is amazing how quickly they can change something that they want to. You know, that's fairly easy to change. Oh, more food? Okay, give them more food.
Right.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, that was good.
Yeah.
And so, again, I, to the best of my knowledge, have no reason to believe that the scholarship athletes have it bad. I think they have it good, right? I mean, most places they live in their own dorms that are nicer than other people's dorms, and they have opportunities that others don't have. They have educational what's the word? Restrictions is the wrong word. They probably have some things they can't do academically that others can do because of the restrictions on time. We probably could find a way to finagle that a little bit better. But by and large, I don't think that there is an inequity in that arrangement. I don't think that it's easily solvable. I do think the other stuff is easily solvable. Just remove the rules. I mean, or at least greatly loosen them.
Again, you can't make it that easy. Remove the rules, and then because then you have to think about the consequences or Pandora's box that you open up to recruiting, and what then you can offer a recruit to come to your school if you just let them get whatever they want. There has to be some lines. What they are, I don't know. Again, I can't sit here and give you. Obviously, the NCAA can't either. What way you should go about it, but to just open the floodgates to me isn't the answer. Whatever they're not allowed to do, let them do it. I mean, that to me is not the answer and what that can open up.
I would love to find out the answer to this question, actually. Can we call over there?
If a student athlete won
that.
No way they'd get the money.
So that would be ironic. Like if one of the best basketball players or any of the basketball players at Maryland had been at the game. I mean, I'm reading the wording of this here. Hold on. I closed the picture, so let me open it again because it was from their Twitter feed. The wording of the contest is, if the Terps return a punt for a touchdown in tomorrow's second half, one Maryland student will win $10,000. Hashtag must be present to win. It does not say on this tweet, and I'm sure somewhere they have exactly how they would go about winning. You could just pick your seat or something like that.
Exactly right. But I could almost guarantee you that a scholarship athlete would not be able to
win it.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I'd love that. I would love for that to have happened. I would love for for them to call out the seat number and have the star of the basketball team. I think Sean Obi is on that team right now. So to have him stand up and say, "It's me, it's me. I won the $10,000," and see how that one turned out. All right, we got a little sidetracked there, but I think it was worth it. Mike and Mike presented by Progressive Insurance. Ryan Smith will join us on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. We'll do fill in the blank a little bit later, but Ryan's got good answers to big questions. What exactly is going on with Zeke Elliott now? What is it that the NFL has to file by tomorrow and then the NFLPA has to file by Friday? And
there's a lot of legal mumbo-jumbo going on.
Does all of it add up to he's definitely playing all year or not? And could this be different from Brady in the way that it actually does wind up costing the National Football League office all that power for the commissioner?
Hey, everyone, Mike Golick here. Support for the Mike and Mike podcast comes from our friends at Rocket Mortgage by Quicken Loans. Chances are you're confident when it comes to your work, your hobbies, your life. Rocket Mortgage gives you that same level of confidence when it comes to buying a home or refinancing your existing home loan. Rocket Mortgage is simple, allowing you to fully understand all the details and be confident you're getting the right mortgage for you. To get started, go to rocketmortgage.com/Mikes. Equal housing lender, licensed in all 50 states, NMLS, consumeraccess.org number 3030.
Guys don't really talk about antiperspirant. Despite that, 91% of Dove Men Plus Care users recommend it. Here's what they said.
It blocks the, perspiration, I think is the fancy word.
It's comfortable. It smells nice. My girl likes the smell.
Well, I don't know. It's hard. I think it's quite masculine. My underarms aren't the worst thing at the gym.
It's kind of like the Hoover Dam from my armpits, I guess.
Dove Men Plus Care Antiperspirant. Tough on sweat, not on skin.
Okay, so delightfully, we have answers to some of the questions that we have regarding the Zeke Elliott situation. So it was Friday afternoon, long after our show was over, that this decision came down. And then, of course, after a full Saturday of college football and a full Sunday of NFL, we did not have time to get into this yesterday. So let's get some of these answers, and our legal analyst, Ryan Smith, is good enough to join us here in our studio. Pleasure to see you, Ryan.
Yeah,
Thank
great
you
to be
coming.
here. No, this is great.
Good to have you in person.
Yep.
So there's a couple of different things. First of all, I'm reading that if someone has has to file something by tomorrow and then someone else has to file something by Friday.
This is the life of a lawyer.
I can't follow this. So
we got tired after a day.
Help everyone. We're putting you on retainer. Help everyone with this here. We know that the judge granted the temporary restraining order, and our initial reaction was, well, that means Zeke is going to get to play until they settle all of that. So what's getting filed now and then Friday?
So now this is the NFL, and by the way, Michael Smith put me on retainer too, and he's like, checks in the mail.
Oh,
check.
well, there you go.
But what they did yesterday was the NFL filed what's called an emergency stay. Basically a two-tiered process. They first went to the Court of Appeals filing a notice of appeal. That's saying to everybody, we're going to appeal this preliminary injunction that was granted on Friday that allows Ezekiel Elliott to play. So we're going to go to the Court of Appeals over the district court's head to try to get that changed. That could take some time. So they went, the second tier of this, they went to the judge that issued the preliminary injunction on Friday and said, hey, can you hold on imposing your discipline, what you said, your preliminary injunction, while this Court of Appeals decides that. So it's kind of like a two-tiered process. We call it an emergency stay because they're looking to get this thing done quickly. They want to take Ezekiel Elliott off the field, impose that punishment, and so that's why you're seeing filings happening this week, because the judge is saying, okay, I'm willing to hear it. NFL, you file this. NFLPA, you file that. And then presumably they'll hear it. This court will hear it next week.
I'm sorry, but then now what? And then what? So if that court says, yes, we agree with you. He's a stay, so then Zeke is off the field.
He's off the field if he grants a stay. He's unlikely to grant a stay because it's like going to the guy who issued the ruling and say, hey, you know what, can you hold off on your ruling so I can get somebody up top to overrule you?
Well, isn't this like the other side when the NFLPA has the issue with, well, you got discipline from the league and, we're going to appeal, and it goes right to the league again.
Right. That's right.
So this stay is kind of like asking Harold Henderson his opinion on Roger Goodell's original ruling, right? Are we getting
a little bit? Yeah,
okay.
It's a really good point. But the whole point is it's a little bit difficult at this stage for them to get that emergency stay. Basically, the NFL has to prove there's an emergency. You got to take them off the field. We got to impose this punishment. And you look at it, and I think a court's more than likely to say, what's the emergency? If I'm wrong, if I get overruled, you suspend them later.
Okay, so let's say they don't get the stay. Then what's the timetable for all of this? Okay. This is where we get lost.
This is where it gets interesting. So the NFL may still then have a play, which is then to go to the appeals court, this court they already appealed to, and basically make the same arguments and say, can you please hurry up and decide this? Because we didn't get the emergency stay, but in the interests of our CBA and all the things that we think are right, this guy should not be playing. Our suspension should be imposed. And that also was a little bit unlikely because appeals courts don't exactly move fast. Sometimes they do. So there's a chance, and they're going to try to make that play. So you never know what can happen. But if they don't get the emergency stay, I guess that ruling, that case might happen next week. If they don't get that emergency stay, I think it's more likely than not that Ezekiel Elliott will play the rest of the year.
Okay, so let's go back, and we got Ryan Smith here. So that's where we stand as of right now. Ryan with the Straight Talk, brought to you by Straight Talk Wireless, best phones, best networks, no contracts. So the original opinion, I know it was yours and many people's, was that it was unlikely that the TRO was going to be granted in the first place by Judge Mazant down there in Texas. Does the fact that he granted it change your perspective at all on where this thing may end up? I think most people's conventional wisdom is, well, in the end, the league will win this thing because they have unlimited power that the Tom Brady case only cemented. Is that changed at all by what we've seen here?
No, not for me. I think the league still has a better chance of winning than the NFLPA does. Here's the thing. They have precedent on their sides. When you take a step back from this case, let's just think about how arbitrations work. You have two parties that get together. They make a contract between themselves, and courts love this. Right? Because courts are flooded with cases. The last thing they want is to have to litigate every single thing between a company and employees. They just don't want to get into it. So arbitrators are given a lot of deference. Whether you like what Roger Goodell, the NFL, does in these arbitrations or not, that is what the courts intend to do. The surprise here was that this judge not only heard this, but also let the NFLPA file this before Harold Henderson had even handed down a ruling, and then after that sided with the NFLPA in a situation where you usually give the labor organizations, the arbitrator in this case, deference. So I think you're talking about a preliminary injunction right now. Can we stop him from playing, or will he play? But when you talk about the overall case, precedent is on the NFL side. And if you're a lawyer, you're reading the precedent. Those are our tea leaves. So we're looking at this and we're saying we got the Brady case, the Peterson case. They won on the district court level, but ultimately appeals courts decided that the agreement between the NFL and the NFLPA in the CBA is what rules, and there is no sort of process right for players read into that CBA agreement. It's not there on paper. It's not outlined in the CBA or the personal conduct policy, and therefore it's hard for courts to say that the players are required to have a certain process.
Okay, so let me throw a wrench into the gears and step back and see what happens.
Yeah.
Could the NFL, and could they do it, put Zeke on the commissioner's exempt list?
Well, I think yesterday it seemed like they gave an indication to say, no, that's not what we're going to do. That policy doesn't apply to this particular situation. So I think that's out. I think their play right now, and they could always change their minds, but the play right now seems to be the courts. And they are, I think people look at the NFL sometimes and say, well, why are you even going through this? Just think about precedent. Think about the next guy who gets suspended and uses the Ezekiel Elliott playbook as their argument and makes their way through the courts. Now, every time they make a decision, players are going to say, let's go to the courts. It's great. We got lots of attention here. Not only that, bad PR for the NFL, and we're winning. So I think that's what the NFL is terrified of at this point.
If I understood correctly, one of the things that the judge in Sherman, Texas, had to decide in order to grant the NFLPA their temporary restraining order, or whatever you call it, the injunction, was that they had a reasonable chance of winning somewhere down the road. That's one of the things he had to think. So what he actually looked at was he looked at the process by which they arrived at 6 games, the process by which they decided to suspend him at all, despite the recommendation by the one investigator that there be nothing. He looked at that process and said, this was patently unfair. And despite the fact that Article 46 seems to say that doesn't matter and Goodell can do whatever he wants, no matter how unfair it seems, you tell me if I'm reading this right. The judge said this was so unfair that it supersedes even that.
That is right.
Is that dangerous to the league as far as where this thing may go eventually and ultimately their power falling?
Absolutely it is. Because look at it this way. This whole thing is built on the concept of fundamental fairness. Courts, they basically take this position. We're going to stay out of it unless your hearing, your process is so fundamentally unfair that we have to get involved. Here's what courts will not let happen. Let's say 2 parties get together, they enter into a CBA. You walk in, you've been suspended, and the commissioner looks at you and says, you know what? I don't like you. You're out 6 games. They don't want that. They don't want it to be so egregious that it just is patently unfair. So that's what this is all based on. For the league, what's really interesting about this case, and this is why this was a surprise, you look at a situation like this, and most people say, well, if the league controls the process, they can control what they hear. They can control how they evaluate the evidence. The NFLPA was brilliant in their filing because they basically, one of their key tenets here was there's a conspiracy afoot, right? There's a conspiracy to keep this guy off the field, to suspend him. We need to find out more information. We got to talk to Roger Goodell. Why wasn't Kia Roberts, the investigator who interviewed Tiffany Thompson, offered up? Why couldn't we cross-examine Tiffany Thompson in the Harold Henderson hearing? So in order to do that, they got to talk to Roger Goodell. Now, the last thing Roger Goodell wants to do is have a situation where every player is trying to talk to him in a hearing like this. So NFL said no. Harold Henderson said no. The court looked at that and said, if one party says a conspiracy is afoot, why not let him talk to Roger Goodell? It's one of those situations where the NFL wants to keep this within the NFL, but the more courts get involved, the harder it is to do that.
Can we hold you here a minute? Because I have a few more questions. I know Mike has a few more questions. Yeah. There's a few things that I think could come of this that are really significant. We'll take a brief break. We'll come back. I'm glad we can keep you here. Ryan Smith, good enough to spend some time with us. Ryan Clark is on the way as well. Paul Feinbaum. And don't miss Tim Duncan.
Dad, we talk a lot about sports.
Yes, we do.
And food.
Yep.
And sometimes even health.
That is true.
In a recent survey, the Cleveland Clinic found that today's fathers and sons are talking more about their health than previous generations, but there's still a conversation gap around below-the-belt issues.
Cleveland Clinic wants to remind all men to mention it to their doctor.
Doctors have heard it all before, especially Cleveland Clinic. They're ranked #1 in urology in the nation.
And they've got answers to 10 questions most men are afraid to ask at clevelandclinic.org/mention it.
Very quickly, those of you watching on ESPN2 just saw the claymation that we did of the moment, that great show that we did after Golick got upcharged at a restaurant in an airport for ordering off the kids' menu.
Yes, I did.
You did?
Yes, I did.
Oh.
So, Ryan, you know, I mean, we have you on retainer.
I'm taking that case.
I have a case.
Yeah,
Had a whole
you have
group
a case.
of people and they didn't have what I wanted on the regular
Sliders.
menu. Sliders. They didn't have it on the regular menu. You saw it on the kid menu, ordered it. They said, we got to upcharge you $2.
They have no right to
I said, you're the
upcharge
one that
you.
doesn't have it on the regular menu.
Yeah. They have no right to upcharge you.
They did.
Could this be a constitutional issue? I need to think about this. We're going to take this case.
Okay.
Okay, where is it?
Do you need a retainer?
Yes, I do.
Airport where? What, remember
and
what
travel
airport?
expenses.
We're not taking the case.
we demand those $2 back. But you get a third of that, right? My dad was a lawyer.
I get a third of that.
Yeah.
I want a retainer. And this was in where was this?
Tampa.
Oh, Tampa. Yeah, sure. I'll go to Tampa.
You're going to get 66 cents out of this deal. Okay. Mike and Mike, all your Twitter all morning long through the 1-800-Flowers.com Twitter feed. Nothing makes up for your football obsession like a surprise from 1-800-Flowers.com. To order a dozen multicolored roses, plus an extra bouquet and a vase for just $29.99, go to 1-800-Flowers.com/ESPN. All right, we each had one more question for you. Go, let's go.
Yep. Mine is, if the NFL had basically had Kia Roberts in the big meeting, let Kia Roberts talk to the NFLPA, let the NFLPA talk to who they wanted to, and did all that instead of just saying we do what we want, but say, here, talk to everybody. Mm-hmm. And then after that, Roger said, I know Kia Roberts said she wouldn't have suspended, but we have a big committee. We have a committee of 4, 5, 6 people. I still think after hearing everybody, it's a 6-game suspension. If they had done that, would that have appeased the judge in this case and said, you know what? Okay, how they went about it, you got to talk to everybody, NFLPA, so it was fair, suspensions upheld.
Would that have appeased the judge? The question is, if the NFLPA didn't have other arguments. So that would be my answer, my answer to that. But I would say yes, I think it would have been a much better case. Now, the other part of this is, would it have appeased the NFLPA? I think the NFL would say no. I think the NFLPA would say yes. So here's the deal. In this particular situation, the NFLPA is alleging a conspiracy. They're saying that certain people like Kia Roberts were withheld from them, all that kind of stuff. The NFL's position on this is courts and everybody else, there is nothing in our CBA that lets you micromanage our process. And what we're really concerned about is that every time somebody has a decision they don't like, they're going to say, it's a conspiracy. We didn't talk to this person. We should have talked to that person. While the courts may look at that and say, yeah, why didn't you? Essentially, that's what the judge said.
Right.
Yeah, why didn't you talk to that person? The NFL's position would be, well, we have a right to determine what we hear, what we don't hear. We determine this based on forensics and some other things. The NFLPA would say, this is indicative of what's been happening over and over again. When the fix is in, these guys cover it up. They don't want to show us everything. They make us work for it. And that means we don't have fundamentally fair hearings. So on both sides, there's a little bit of what we call a slippery slope. For the NFL, it's this fear that, hey, courts keep getting involved. Now the process is what it says in the CBA. The NFLPA's feeling is, yeah, but these are people who aren't always being honest and upfront with us. How else can we have fundamentally fair hearings?
Well, you could have a neutral, independent arbitrator, and that would solve all of these
That is what
problems.
the NFLPA has been saying.
Okay, then let me ask you my question, which is one of the things that I could see the NFLPA arguing is an inconsistency in the application of the 6-game standard that's in the policy. We've run over time and time again all the players who didn't get 6 games, Quincy and Enwa Jr. Gillette. And then very conveniently, on Friday, Josh Brown, who initially had been suspended 1 game, was suspended 6 games by the league. Now the league sent statements out to Golick and many others saying that this was just when we got the information, whatever. How, if at all, does that factor into what's going on?
I don't know if it factored into what the judge did. It's not supposed to, but I got to say that was a head-scratcher. Just the timing of it all. You could have done this 6 weeks from now. You could have done it 6 weeks before, depending on when you got the information. But what it looks like is that you're in this situation and you said, let's fix that Josh Brown thing so people can know that we're on the up and up and we do things right and the hearing was just fine. I mean, look, they have the same punishment. That doesn't look good. You know, so much of this has to do with the NFL's tolerance for bad publicity, right? Because I think one of the biggest things in this particular process is the NFLPA got out ahead of this. They're winning the publicity game. They're winning the game where people are walking around saying, I think Ezekiel Elliott was railroaded. I think there are other people on the NFL side that say, wait, we built a domestic violence policy not only to protect women, but also to make sure that we show that we're taking a hardline stance on this. There's a victim here. They were aggrieved. Let's think about this person. But that's not the discussion that's happening. So with the Josh Brown thing, that surprised me because I said, you need to not look like that's just going to look to people like you're trying to cover something up and that now you're trying to make it look good. So I think that was not that's not the PR move of the year in my mind.
So your best guess was Zeke for Cowboy players, Cowboy fans, and anybody who has Zeke on their fantasy team. Do you think he'll be playing the entire
Emphasis
season?
on guess. Don't base your fantasy picks on me.
No.
But I would say he's more like, I think he's going to play this season. And I think I think they have a low chance of winning the emergency stay. And then you go to the appellate court, you try to get them to overturn it. Hey, that could happen. So I can't guarantee that he's going to play. And that could happen actually pretty soon. It's happened before. But in other cases. But in this case, I think the arguments right now, they're on Elliott's side. So right now, that injunction holds and he stays.
But long term, the NFL wins.
Long term, I think the chances are with the NFL. I think they got the best case.
Ryan Smith, terrific work. Thank you so much. You have more than earned
Appreciate it.
what we have paid you and the retainer.
I'm going to give you my address so this check actually is in the mail.
Well done. Ryan Clark is on the way. Paul Feinbaum, Tim Duncan, and more. Stay there. Busy Tuesday. Mike and Mike.
First time skydiving?
Sure is.
Okay, you just open the door like this and you jump. Wait.
Should we be like in tandem?
Tandem? That's a great idea.
Are you a certified instructor?
No, but I love parachutes and I love people. Here we go.
You wouldn't take chances with an uncertified skydiving instructor. Don't